I'm just gonna run and grab my water bottle. I'll be back in 30 seconds.
Right. Open for business. Hi, everybody. I can see lots of people streaming in. Thanks for coming. Ready when you are, Michelle.
Okay, then let's get started. So hello, everyone. Welcome to our first smaller group session today. With us, we have two speakers who are going to be joining you, and there's just a few operational items that I would love to go over. So there is an opportunity to ask questions in the Q&A. We know that you're going to be polite and respectful, and as the presentation is unfolding, some questions may be answered, and then hopefully we'll get to address as many of the other questions in the end. I also know that Discovery Year has a booth, an exhibit where you also can go and ask questions and connect with them. So welcome to Jay Goslin, who is the founder of Discovery Year, which is a structured and purposeful gap year program that helps young adults develop the skills and experiences needed to thrive after high school. Before starting his own company, Jay held 19 different jobs, including a white rafting water guide, a bartender, a landscaper, a cruise director on a luxury cruise ship, an events manager at the Vancouver 2010 Olympics, and a recruiter for University of Ottawa. During his time at the university, Jay met more than 12,000 high school students and was heartbroken by how anxious and overwhelmed they felt by the thought of life after high school. He realized that many young people could benefit from much more time, space, and life skills to help them thrive in post-secondary and beyond, which led him to founding Discovery Year in 2015. Jay and the Discovery Year team love helping young adults engage in meaningful self-exploration to overcome their fears and fulfill their potentials. And with Jay today is an alumni of Discovery Year, Jordan. So I will turn it over to Jay and Jordan. Welcome.
Thanks very much, Michelle. Okay, nice to be here with everybody. Jordan, I would love to throw it over to you for a moment here. And Jordan is one of our grads from a couple of years ago. You're muted right now, Jordan. I don't know if that's intentional, but you can go ahead and unmute. And why don't you just let everyone know you did Discovery Year, tell everyone why you did it, how it helped you, what you're up to now.
Yeah, so I did my Discovery Year, I think 2 years after high school, coming out of the pandemic. And it was after I did a year of college. And college, it didn't really go so well leading up to the pandemic because everything shut down and my marks sort of dropped. So then I dropped out of my college program. I took a year off during the pandemic because everyone was locked down. And coming out of the pandemic, I wasn't sure that I wanted to go back to post-secondary right away. I wanted to sort of see what else there was besides just going to school. So my idea was to work, but also sort of implement some sort of educational program into my timetable. So I looked around at a few gap year programs, and then a therapist of mine recommended that I do Discovery Year for a year because it sort of teaches young adults workplace skills, interpersonal relationships, that sort of thing. And I felt like it was a good fit for me, being that I was sort of unsure on how to navigate post-secondary, and I was unsure of what I wanted to get into.
Thanks, Jordan. And what are you up to now? Just really quickly, where are you at? Studying, working?
Right now, I'm unemployed, and but I've been at York for 2 years. I was in a arts and science transfer program. And I did 1 year of that, and I transferred over to York University, and I'm doing psychology now.
Very cool. Yeah, one thing I like about your story is that you're a great example of someone who did some post-secondary and it wasn't going well. But the reason was not that you're not meant to do post-secondary. The reason was that it wasn't perhaps the right time and place for you. You had some other things you wanted to sort through, and now you're back. And I've never asked you what your grades are, but I imagine you're doing pretty well in school. So it's a good story, and we'll hear more.
Yeah, I
Thanks for
mean,
being here, Jordan.
currently yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so let's yeah, we'll hear much more from Jordan. So thanks again for everyone. I still see there's many other people jumping in. So this session is the most important skills for your future. I'm Jay, this is Jordan, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's really important. Of course, school is important. School teaches us a lot of useful skills and knowledge in the world. There are also many other things that are important to learn about to be successful in life. So I would love for anyone here in the Q&A to, which will be visible to us, to let us know what you think is one important skill that might come from outside of school that you'd like to learn or that you think is important for success in your life beyond high school. So what's a skill that you think is important? Please go ahead and put that in the Q&A if you would like to share, and we'll share some of the answers as they come up. Great. So we've got a few answers already here. Time management, resiliency. Ooh, another time management. This is fun because you can't see other people's answers. So we'll see how much overlap there is. So making connections with people. Yeah, great ones. All so far, so good. Decision making. Absolutely. Being able to adapt. Communication, leadership, time management again. Jobs, being able to get and keep a job. Responsibility, budgeting, organization, working with others, so teamwork, collaboration skills, money skills, confidence, networking, how to do taxes, yes, or at least how to get someone else's at a very minimum. Communication, budgeting, time management, communication, work-life balance. Yeah, what does that mean? That's a good thing to learn, because it's hard to know what that means exactly when we're young. Financial skills, curiosity. Oh my goodness, there's so many good ones in here. We can't get through all of them, but thank you. Yeah, self-intelligence, self-awareness, finance, money management, how to compromise, organizational skills. Great answers. Thank you. I guess we can wrap up. You all know what the skills are. No, I'm just kidding. So we'll keep going, but these are great answers. Thank you, everyone. And feel free to use the Q&A to let us know your questions as we move throughout this, by the way, and we'll be able to hopefully get to many of them, if not most. So what we'll start by doing here is I'll just share a few slides with you. And so I am the founder of this program called Discover Year. It's a structured and purposeful gap year program. So I've met many, many young people over the years, but I also work with employers quite a bit. I work with people who are business owners or managers, directors in companies. And so I hear from a lot of people about the skills that they are looking for in hiring young people. And of course, those skills are important, but also there are these skills that are really important to have a meaningful life, to do things outside of work as well. So I don't want to overwhelm anybody, and this is a list of skills that all of us learn over. It's not that anyone does these things perfectly, but these are the skills, many of which have been named in the chat already, that people tell me, and I experience myself over and over again. These are the skills that really make people great at work and in life. So we heard about time management already. Nobody, I think, mentioned giving and receiving feedback, but that would be related to the communication, probably, that a lot of people highlighted. Project management, which people identified, planning, a work ethic. I don't know if that was in there or not. That's perhaps more a quality or a characteristic, but really important. Dependability, right? You can't imagine how many people that I know who hire young people say, gosh, I just wish people would show up on time, or I wish people would let me know if they can't come to work, or I wish they'd be there every day. That's something that people pay a lot of attention to and really value when they're hiring young people. Teamwork was mentioned at least a few times in the chat there, in the Q&A. Again, really important. Personal responsibility, that was also mentioned. Organizational skills was mentioned a number of times. I'm not sure if anyone hit on this specifically, but active listening. really learning how to pay attention to other people, to what they're saying, asking good questions, demonstrating that we understand what they're saying. That's a really, really, really important skill that we focus a lot on at Discovery Year as an example, where our students learn, okay, wow, I didn't realize I could be such a better listener. Stress management and resilience, people mentioned that already. Professional writing, I don't know if anyone mentioned that would fall under communication, but very specifically, there is a particular way of communicating that is that we use in the workplace that is quite different from academic writing or communication. So it's important to start learning about that and how to use it. How to be curious. People did say curiosity. I know in the chat, at least one person, and demonstrating empathy towards others, learning about different cultures so that you can interact effectively and be respectful of different people's beliefs and ways of being. The ability to advocate for oneself, to speak effectively, to share our ideas, and to be able to persuade or influence other people to see our point of view is also really helpful. Somebody mentioned kind of self-awareness, which is a really, really big one. Confidence, another person mentioned that. So you hit on a lot of these, but these are really important things that are not just made up stuff that old people tell you about. This is actually what matters to a large degree. Of course, this is not a comprehensive list. There are other things that we might add, and depending on who you are or what kind of work you do, some of these might be a little bit more important than others. But these are a lot of the things that we would invite you to consider moving forward and to find ways to develop as best you can as you get older. Okay, just looking at the Q&A really quickly here to see if there's anything so far. So yeah, still some interesting skills in there. Okay, so I'll stop sharing for a second here, and I would invite Jordan. Jordan is, in his early 20s. He went through high school, he did some college, he did Discovery Year, and now he's studying at university, studying psychology. So Jordan, over the last number of years, tell us about one skill that you've learned that you now see as very important that you perhaps didn't understand well when you were younger.
For me, it would have to be probably relating to people. I think that Discovery Year helped build that a lot for me because the program brings in a wide range of people across different backgrounds, culturally, economically. So I think I was exposed to that a lot in DY, and it sort of helped bolster my communication ability in going to university. And because when you go to university, you're meeting people again from different academic backgrounds. So I would say that helped probably was the main reason. Yeah.
And for you, was it that you kind of didn't have a lot of opportunities to develop this skill, or was it kind of just something you didn't know how important it was?
No, I think it's just something that I found that I picked up. Yeah, like growing up, I had a lot of really good relationships, a lot of really good friendships, and but I went through periods where I isolated myself, and I think it kind of it made me forget like how easy it is for me to interact with people and communicate effectively. And I think the pandemic didn't help. I think that was kind of the highest peak of me just being isolated and away from people. And Discovery sort of brought me back to the place where I should be at. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, it's hard sometimes to imagine for especially young people here today. COVID happened during a really important part or time in your lives, you and some of the people that might be joining. So it's sometimes difficult for us to get our students to the place where they see this other world where they're, meeting, gathering, belonging in groups much more than they were used to, being isolated for a good amount of time. So thank you. Okay, I've got more questions for Jordan. And again, if anybody has questions, feel free to add them to the Q&A. We'll try to survey that best we can. So feel free, Jordan, if you want to look at the Q&A, if there's any questions that you think we can attend to over time. So I'll just share a little bit about my background. And as Michelle mentioned in my introduction earlier, when I met 12,000 students across Ontario and the rest of Canada who were graduating from high school, I was really shocked at the way those young people felt they needed to be after high school. When I graduated from high school, which was in 2000, most people who were leaving high school were generally pretty excited about the possibility of maybe even leaving home or trying something new, getting out of high school, kind of leaving that experience of their life in their past and moving on. And then I met 12,000 high school students. This was between 2011 and 2014, so over a decade ago. And I was really amazed at how terrified young people were. People were really scared, really anxious, really depressed, and oftentimes overwhelmed. And the young people that I would meet in the schools would tell me, I would ask them what they would be interested in, and they would tell me academic programs. They would talk about PhD programs, and they would give me their 40-year plan. And I remember thinking, wow, I did not have any plan when I was 17 or 18 years old. That's a long way away. So things had evidently changed, I think, in the way young people experience high school and the expectations that they feel are placed on them around having a decision made and understanding who they are when they're leaving high school, which, anybody who's a bit older can tell you this is a journey that takes a lot of time. So a little bit about me, perhaps just to give you one example of someone who's changed pathways and had really no idea what I was going to do when I was younger. Michelle mentioned that I've had 19 jobs over the course of my life since I was about probably 16 years old. The 20th job I had was starting my own company. I've been fired twice. Oh, that's hard, right? And it's sometimes difficult to admit that we get fired, but it does happen. People make mistakes. Sometimes we're not in the right fit. And I think it's important to share. Those of us that have had some degree of success in life, we've also had failures. So down in the bottom left-hand corner there, you can see a photo of me. That's on a cruise ship. I was a cruise director for 3 years. So I had the amazing opportunity to visit about 140 countries in over 50 countries, which was really, really exciting to me. So I've traveled a lot. I've learned a ton by traveling. And then as was mentioned, I met 12,000 students. That was when I worked at the University of Ottawa. So I was going around promoting the University of Ottawa for a few years. I met 12,000 students. And then I also met 500 employers during my time working at U Ottawa. I worked at the co-op office and I interviewed a bunch of employers who were hiring our students. And they all told me that, hey, Jay, you know what? We don't really care all that much about the degree that the students have. They often would require that young people have a degree, but they often would say it's not so important to us what they studied. We want all these skills that we just highlighted a couple of slides ago. So I wanted to really underscore the importance of those things. And all these experiences, in the middle of that photo is me at the Vancouver Olympics. I was the manager at the Richmond Olympic Oval, one of the managers there. Had a wonderful experience. So all of my experiences, including high school and then in the workplace and post-secondary, I studied economics and political science. And then I did most of a master's degree in counseling psychology. And I learned a lot about myself and the world around me. And all those experiences contributed to me founding this Discover Your program, because I really felt that young people today needed more of an opportunity to go out, have experiences in the world, learn about themselves, and build some of these really important skills. So oftentimes my experience is that high schools in particular are really trying their best to help young people learn a lot of these skills that are not necessarily academic. But a lot of times students are so focused on getting good grades, getting the best grades they can, and sometimes they're focused on other things as well, that they often don't learn the skills as well as they could. So in Discover Year, we don't have any academic programming. It's all practical programming so that students can really focus on these specific skills. So we help our students work, they travel, they do community service. We go on what we call experiential outings. So we take them around Ottawa and Toronto. We have programs in both cities, and they get to experience the world in a new way where they don't have this requirement of getting good grades so you can get into a good school. And we help them over the course of this 1-year program. We help them learn about listening, giving and receiving feedback, how to work effectively in teams, how to manage your time, how to manage your money, how to earn and manage your money, how to write a little bit differently when you're writing in the workplace, how to plan effectively, and how to speak effectively as well. So we work on these and many other skills over the course of over the course of our program. So I want to throw it back to Jordan now. And again, I'll take a peek at the questions if there are any questions there. But Jordan, tell us a little bit about. So you said the skill for you that was building relationships. But tell us a little bit about what about the Discovery Year was the way that things happened. The different elements or components of the program. What was most useful for you to go from saying, "Oh, I went to college. It was a bad experience. I'm feeling down about myself," to now going on to university and having what I imagine is a good amount of success. What was helpful?
I think practically speaking, I could say time management. Um, I think when you're in the high school and elementary school system, that everything's kind of set up for you already. But when you move on to post-secondary, you're sort of on your own. The responsibility is given to you to organize your schedule, build time to study, build time to socialize. And I think Discovery Year sort of introduced me to that, specifically because it's mainly about the wide range of things you get to do in the program, right? Because we include like traveling time, we include a work period. There's also weekly meetings that we do. So it's very broad in a sense, and it sort of teaches you different aspects of life that you go through as an adult, but like sort of in a micro form, right? So I would say that it helped me take the correct step forward in university now, being able to manage time effectively.
Mm. Yeah, so it's kind of like this balance. Maybe it was I don't want to say baby steps, but progressive steps where you went from kind of having everything laid out for you in life to having fewer things laid out and you having to learn how to lay them out for yourself. And then you get to university where you literally have to kind of do it all more or less for yourself, and you're feeling more
Yeah,
comfortable about that now.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And also, it really just highlighted what I wanted to do with my life going through Discovery Year. Um, Beforehand, I didn't do much traveling. Um, I didn't really care about school a lot, especially in high school. Um, so it really taking a step back and taking a year off from education, it sort of made me kind of desire it again, so to speak, and also realize that I like to explore, I like to travel, I like to do like all sorts of things that adults do, and yeah, so Discovery really exposed me to that.
So that's really interesting. I'm just looking at the Q&A here, and I see somebody was asking about, hey, which is a very common question that we get. Is it difficult to get back into education after a gap year? What skills or ways helped the most? So I've got something to share about that, but Jordan, what do you think for you? Was it difficult, and what helped to get back into it?
I think it's what comes to mind is that there's a lot of resources at post-secondary institutions. There's academic advising. There's peer studying help. There's clubs you can join. So I think it's all there for you to succeed. It's just a matter of taking action on it and integrating yourself into the institution rather than just focusing on getting a letter grade and a piece of paper.
Yeah. And so having some more time and maturity and life experiences perhaps enabled you to better understand the help that was available and to go and get it.
Absolutely, because yeah, when you're 18, 19, you don't understand like the big picture sort of how everything is set up in a way for you to succeed. And you know, you can only help yourself by interacting with people more and asking questions and surrounding yourself with people who are there to support you. So I feel like yeah, that's sort of how university is set up in a way, but it's not so clear when you're first getting into it, and that's what sort of the gap year taught me what to do. It taught me how to explore my environment and interact and figure out how to succeed.
Amazing. Thank you. So this is a question that we got to get quite a bit, and I think people are very focused on, okay, like I learned, periodic table of elements. I learned how to write an essay. If I take 1 year of not doing those things, I will completely forget it, and it'll be difficult to get back into it. And I'm here to say that from all the people that I know, which is a huge number of people who have done gap years, what most people say is, I took some time off, I went back to school, or I started university or college, and oof, the first 2 weeks were rough. They were rough. I was kind of getting back into study mode. I hadn't been used to that for a while. So it would be a lie to say, oh, it's a total breeze. You just walk back into it and it's but that's true of anything in life. Anything that's worthwhile doing is going to be a bit difficult. But the part that I think is even more important than talking about, it's a bit difficult to get back into that school mode when, a bit rusty, is that, what people also say is that, the first 2 weeks I was rusty. It took me a little while to get that rust off, but then they hit a stride and they surpass, of course, not always, but in many ways and in many instances, they surpass other people who are there and just kind of doing okay in university or college. And the reason is, I'll just share some more slides really quickly again here. I mean, of course, there are many reasons why that could be the case, but the main reason that research would suggest that why people who, like Jordan, took time off to think about who they are, to have different experiences, to learn about themselves, the reason why they might be rusty at the beginning but end up doing really well is because interest, doing things that we have an innate interest in, is the most important single factor for having success in the things that we do. So of course we can be successful in things. It's possible to be successful in things that we don't care much about. Certainly it's possible, but it's not as likely as doing things that we are really excited about. So most of you who are on this call, I suspect at some point in your journey along, high school in particular, you've probably met people or heard messaging that says, follow your passion, drop everything else, go after what you're passionate about. And so a couple of things that are important, I think, to mention about that is, number one, you probably don't have a passion. If you're 17 or 18 years old, you're exploring the world. It's certainly not necessarily the case, and in fact, very unlikely probably that you have one singular idea or passion that you want to pursue for the rest of your life. Another thing that's important, so I'd invite everyone who's kind of fearful of, hey, I don't know what my passion is yet, and if you're stressing about that, I invite you to wipe that away, because almost nobody ever knows these things when they're leaving high school. Most people do have some sense of the things that they're good at and that they enjoy doing, but you've also had only a very small subset of experiences. So you can't possibly know all the things that you'd be interested in because you haven't experienced enough yet. So it's also the case that people can be passionate about many things in the world. So it's this kind of false dichotomy where people are saying, follow your passion. There's probably one thing that you love the most. Do that, you'll never work. And there's a grain of truth to the idea of following. Thinking about, as an 18-year-old, identifying your passion and pursuing it forever is a misleading endeavor. What I would invite all of you to think about, though, that's more helpful for more people, is when you leave high school, to go out and be excited about finding what you might be passionate about. Thinking about what you're interested in now, think about the things that you might want to try. Be open to trying things that you might have never even thought of before, because there's a whole world of experiences and subject matter that you might be very interested in that you've never encountered. So when we go into, even with a year or more, we go back to education, if people are excited about it, if they found a topic they're interested in learning about, the rust falls away pretty quickly. I hope that helps for that question. I know it was a longer answer perhaps than you were expecting, but it fell in line nicely with what we were going to be talking about anyways. Okay, another interesting question that came up that is somewhat related, I think it's a good question. Somebody asked, how do you stand out among the people with the skills, which is, all the skills that we've been talking about. So assuming that everyone has these skills, how do you stand out? And I think that's a great question. And the main thing that I will say is very few people have all those skills. So I wouldn't worry too much about standing out amongst a group of people who have all those skills, because most people don't have them all. And so That's what I would say without kind of taking up too much time on this question. That's what I would say is I would say almost no one has all these skills. It would be very, very impressive for anyone to do all of these things really well. But if we were to choose, you know, what might be the most important skill from that list as a starting point, I would perhaps, although it's very difficult to choose one, I would perhaps point to curiosity. Because if people in the world see that you're curious about the world, about them, and you are, taking steps to explore, that will almost undoubtedly leave a positive impression on others. So if you're looking to stand out, being interested in other people, asking questions, getting involved, that's a great way to start. Okay. Oh, this is a great question. I don't know if we have time for this, but someone was asking, how do you say no to group pressure? It's a great question. I would need a little bit more context. So for the person who asked that question, I won't say your name, but I would love for you to maybe add in the Q&A, like, what do you mean? What kind of group pressure? Is this related to finding a particular career, going to a school? Is it pressure about, drugs? Is it, what kind of pressure? That would help us answer that question, I think. Okay. There's other great questions here. So someone else asked, is everyone's schedule in Discovery the same, or does it vary depending on the student's interests? So Jordan, I don't know if you want to, maybe I'll hand it off to you. Do you have anything to say about that? In Discovery, is everyone's schedule the same, or does it vary? What do you think?
Well, we only have the meetings once a week. So for the other 6 days, we were kind of free to do whatever we wanted. I worked full time. I know some people who volunteered in the program. Um, but I guess that's sort of the beauty of having the Discovery program is that it's sort of it's free flowing. You have your responsibilities that are voluntary to do, right? We have our modules that we go through every week in our discussions and our speakers. So you can take it upon yourself to prepare for those, or you could sit back and just learn and absorb what the people are saying. But for the other days of the week, you're free to do whatever you want to do. And I think, but every week on that one day, we discover new things that we're able to do in that free time rather than just staying at home.
Yeah, that's great, Jordan. Exactly. That's it. And we built the program in such a way where the students would have consistency and they would all have shared experiences on those Wednesdays, which we call Discovery Days. And then the rest of the week, they had the flexibility to explore things that were individually or perhaps sometimes in groups interesting to them. So there's shared experience, and then there's a lot of room for people to explore the world and their own interests as well. I would be interested to know, while we're talking about this idea of interest, Jordan, I have a little bit better understanding of kind of, where I think you landed in terms of your interests in school when you started Discovery and where you're at now. But I would love to know, over the course of the last number of years, what's an interest or a passion that you have now that you didn't know about or you didn't think you'd be interested in when you were maybe leaving high school?
Mm, I guess traveling. I think I know that's kind of a boring answer. But I think traveling and even just exploring the city. Like I used to just in high school just stick around at home most of the time, and I feel like the year sort of taught me that there's much more you can do outside of the house, and it's you're not bounded to the path on what other people are doing. Like mainly people my age were going off to college and university, and I felt compelled to want to follow in that direction. And for the most part, I did. But regardless, the program still taught me that I'm not tied down to this path that other people are on, and you're free to do what you want to do, and but maintaining the fact that you also want to be a responsible adult, and take care of your priorities.
Mm. I think that's a great one because, especially with, the few years of lockdowns, and it's pretty well documented now, young people just haven't had as much opportunity to explore the world. So, even something like you said, as simple as exploring the city, rather than hanging out at home all the time, getting out, going places, interacting with different people. I think that's a really important and useful message to hear for young people, because it's just not statistically just not as common as it used to be, right? Even people who are
Mhm.
old like me, 43 years old, people, young people just go and hang out at the mall all day on weekends. A lot of times, that's one basic example, but they'd get out of the house. Whereas, people are more likely to be inside in their own home more often, and therefore not as exposed to new opportunities and ideas. Yeah, that's a good one. I like it. Okay, so with that in mind, I think Jordan's thoughts lead well into what we were going to share next, which is, for me, a really important message to share with young people that I care a lot about. And when I was interacting with thousands of students over a few years, and then even since then, in the last 10 years or so, I've interacted with many, many more young people. I noticed that young people were very focused on this idea of planning and implementing, as if they felt that the world around them was saying, okay, what's your plan? How are you going to implement it? You're leaving high school. What are you going to do? What's the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? And even though I don't know that many people were saying that that's what young people need to do, I don't know that that's what all adults were saying. I don't think so. But young people, by many different ways, have interpreted that I got to have it all figured out. I got to know what the rest of my life looks like, and I got to tell people about it. And that is really ineffective and unhelpful to actually uncover our passions and our interests and to build meaningful skills over time, because it limits us. And it's very stressful as well, because we say, here's my plan. And when inevitably things will change, people are embarrassed by that, or they're frustrated by it. So I would invite all of you, if you're thinking, okay, I got to have the answer, I'm leaving high school, and then I got to implement it, and I'm no looking back. I'm just going to go to school or whatever it is, get a job, and here's my plan. When I'm 50, here's what I'm going to be telling people that I'm doing. I would invite you as best you can to wipe that completely away from your brain. Having a plan for your next steps is great. To think about where you want to be in the next number of months, next number of years, that's great. It's really important to think about where you want to go. It's also really important to adapt as you go. When you try things, you'll learn about yourself, you'll learn about the world, and you will ultimately, of course, change your mind about certain things. So while I experienced a lot of young people who seemed to think that their mindset had to be plan and implement, I would invite all of you to think more about how can you have a mindset of test and learn. The idea that life is an experiment, not a test. Inevitably, you will make mistakes and have failures. You'll go into the world, but if you go out into the world and think this is an experiment, I'm going to learn and grow, that sets you up much better for success than going out thinking, here's my plan, I need to implement it. And this is very well documented, that people who are adaptable and who find fulfilling or create fulfilling and meaningful lives for themselves have more of this test and learn mentality. So I'd like to invite all of you to think about that, hopefully to consider it. And I see some other really good questions here. We won't have time for all of them. So how do you know which passion feels right? Oh, that is an excellent question that nobody has the answer for, unfortunately. But once you've tried enough things, those answers become more evident. So nobody can give you that answer. My answer is to have experiences and start listening to what your body is telling you about those experiences, and that will evolve. And understand that you will make mistakes. Sometimes you'll think, I'm passionate about this, and you're going to go for it, and then you'll realize, oh, this was not the right thing for me. That's totally fine and normal and expected. Okay, there's really good questions in here. How do you build?
I'm trying to type out answers. Sorry.
Oh, are you? Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Thanks, Jordan. There's some really good ones in here. Well, another one is, how do you build or create motivation when you feel like you're lacking in that field? Again, these are really great questions, but they are very complex as well, the answers. There are many different ways that people become motivated. but I can't really answer that well in this sense. It really depends on so many factors. But I will return to the idea of pursuing your interests, because when you pursue things you're interested in, that incites what's called intrinsic motivation, where you're just excited to do something for the sake of doing it rather than getting some kind of outcome. So I'd invite people to think about their interests and try to do those, whether it's, your main focus in your life or whether it's something you do after school or on the weekends. Think about what you're interested in, try to find new interests, and pursue those. Where are you? Sorry, I'm just reading through some of the questions. Yeah, somebody said, can you take more than 1 year off or multiple? You can definitely take multiple years off. Sometimes that's a bit scary for people, but we have mentors in the Discovery Year. We have all these great, amazing mentors who've done wonderful things, and some of them did 2 or 3 years off after high school, and they did really cool stuff, and they had a lot of great experiences, and they were super motivated when they went back to school. Sometimes I know people who actually also did a gap year at the end of high school and then some kind of gap year, at the end of their post-secondary education as well. So there's no real limitations on what you can do. It's up to you to choose. But it is often, most people think that it's a bit easier to do earlier in life when you have fewer kind of responsibilities or people depending on you. So it is possible to do more than one for sure. For sure. We have some Discovery Year students who do a year with us and then do another gap year after, which is more independent. And they have specific goals they want to achieve. And those people, even in the short time we've been around, which is 9 years, those people go on to do amazing things. And they're super motivated and excited and doing really well in school. I can think of a few students right now who have done multiple diplomas since they left a 2-year gap year. So it's very possible, but it can be a bit scary, especially for parents, to think about taking more than 1 year off. Okay, so I think the person who was asking about how do you buck the pressure that that you feel, the peer pressure, and they came back and said, pressure about what society thinks of you. That is again a really great question, very complicated that we don't really have time to explore right now, I don't think, because we're wrapping up. But oh man, there's so many great questions here. Sorry, I can't get to them all. Next time, I think what we'll do is maybe just have a Q&A. Come and ask your questions, because these are really good questions. Someone says, how can I decide if I should do an undergrad or graduate degree? It really depends on you. My suggestion to people is, if you feel excited about going to learn about something and you feel prepared, like if you feel you have enough skills to do that and you're independent enough, go for it. There's not much you can lose. If you're excited about it and you feel you're prepared, go and do it. And worst case scenario, it's not what you thought. You can change paths. But it's the people who feel uninterested and unskilled to do that. I would invite those people to take some time and build up their skills and their interest before going. Okay, we've only got 2 minutes left. Someone asked, can someone be in a post-secondary institution and be part of Discovery Year? It's not impossible, but it's unlikely. So Discovery Year is actually a post-secondary institution ourselves. So we're categorized as a private career college. But it is possible. We have some students who do courses at university or college while they're doing their Discovery Year as well. We have one student this year who's doing that, taking a couple of courses. That is possible. Man, there's so many questions. I'm sorry. I would have liked to got to more of your questions, but I appreciate you all diving in and engaging. And I did want to give the opportunity for Jordan, just really quickly, Jordan, to help us sign off here. And there's 400 young people with us right now. Thinking about their next steps, what advice would you have to share with them as they move forward?
I think, well, one thing that's on my mind right now is that, although I consider myself to be very congenial and someone who prioritizes pleasing everybody, it's just not the way that it's going to work out most times. Sometimes I try to adapt, to other people and meet their interests, and it doesn't work out. But I think just realizing that you have to just be yourself, and those who stick around are meant to be in your circle, and those who, sort of reject you or reject who you are, it's not really that important to keep them around in the first place.
Beautiful. I agree. Yes. Setting your authentic circle, as we sometimes call it at Discovery Year. Thanks, Jordan. I just put a link in the chat there for anyone who's interested in learning more about Discover Year. We've got an info session coming up. We have them multiple times throughout the year, but you can pop open that link if you can see it. I'm not sure if everyone can access it, but if you can, or you could just go to our website and come and visit us. It's always helpful for people to meet our community. So thanks everybody for coming. I hope it was useful. I apologize we didn't get to all of your questions, but I really appreciate them. They're a great sign that you're asking really good questions. So thanks for coming and enjoy the rest of the event.
And thank you, Jay, for coming and reminding us that it's not just marks that are important, that the skills that we're developing and finding our passion are things that are going to make life the pathway forward a good one. And Jordan, for your vulnerability and sharing with us your journey so far. So the whole world is still ahead of you, and you've had an amazing path to this point, and we're looking forward to see what you do next. And then, of course, all the students are asking questions. There were lots of questions in the chat, and I know Jay and Jordan answered as many as they could, but keep those questions coming. They're good questions, and keep asking them. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you after lunch, and don't forget to check out the exhibits during the lunchtime break. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Jay and Jordan. Great job.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Thanks, Jordan. Good luck with the rest.
Yeah, we'll see you guys soon, I'm sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Take care.
Yeah, take care. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.